Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Muhammad Bhaskara. So, when I was a kid, I had one dream: not to be a doctor, not to be a pilot. No, I want to be able to fly like Superman. I remember jumping off the couch, arms stretched out, convinced that if I just believe hard enough, gravity would respect my determination. Spoiler alert, it didn't. Instead, I learned that gravity doesn't care about my childhood dreams. But let's be honest, we've all thought about having a superpowers at some point, right? Maybe you want a super speed, or maybe a teleportation to avoid traffic, or invisibility to sneak past responsibilities. But that was it. My flying dream was crushed, your X-Men dreams was crushed, until one day I stumbled upon something fascinating. Real life superhumans does exist. No, they're not flying or lifting cars over their heads, but they have abilities that push the limits of what we thought humans could do. People who can hold their breath over 13 minutes underwater or climb the highest mountains on Earth without needing extra oxygen. And what's even more fascinating, they were not trained to do this, they were born this way. Thanks to something even more powerful than comic book mutation, which is evolution. It got me thinking, if humans have already evolved to develop these incredible abilities, what else might be possible? Maybe flight isn't completely out of the question. Maybe we're still in the early stages of human evolution. So, today, let's dive into the science of real life superhumans, how evolution has shaped their bodies into something straight out of a Marvel comics or Marvel movie, and how evolution might still have a few surprises waiting for us. To understand how this happens, let's talk about evolution, which we have learned in biology subject with Bulfa. So, nature's way of handing out special abilities, but only to those who actually need them. So, evolution isn't like a gym membership where you can just sign up and start getting stronger. No, this process takes 100 or maybe 1,000 of years, and it happens when a group of people is exposed to extreme environmental for so long that their body says, all right, if we're gonna survive this, we need an upgrade, we need improvement. This is where genetic adaptation comes in. If a certain trait helps people survive better, like holding their breath longer or handling extreme cold or using oxygen more efficiently, those with that trait are more likely to pass it on their children. Over generation and generation, that small change become a permanent upgrade for the entire population. Think of it as evolution version of your game's patch updates, maybe. Except it takes a couple thousand of years instead of a few seconds of downloading. And here's where things get really interesting. Some groups of people have lived in extreme conditions for so long that their bodies have evolved to be completely different from the rest of us. We're talking about people who can hold their breath like dolphins, and people who can climb mountains like they're working on a park. This brings us to two of the most fascinating examples of real life superhumans: the Bajau of Southeast Asia and the Sherpas of the Himalayas. Let's start with the Bajau people, or some call them the sea nomads. These are people who have lived their entire lives on the water, traveling in boats and freediving for food. They have lived in the waters of Indonesia, Malaysia, and Philippines for centuries. Now, I don't know about you, but if I try to hold my breath underwater for anything longer than a minute, I start panicking and thinking about my entire life decision. But the Bajau, some of them can hold their breath for over 13 minutes. Scientists were baffled by this, so they did what scientists do. They studied the genes, and what they found was incredible. The Bajau have larger spleens than the average person. Now, why does that matter? Well, the spleen is like an internal oxygen tank. When you hold your breath, it contracts and releases oxygen-rich blood into your system, keeping you going for longer. But here's the kicker. The Bajau didn't train for this. It's in their DNA. They evolved to survive water for long periods, just like seals and other diving mammals. Now, let's head to the mountains, specifically the Himalayas, where another group of people has developed a completely different set of superhuman abilities. Meet the Sherpas, the ultimate mountain climbers. If you or I tried to climb Mount Everest without proper training, we would be struggling to breathe, probably hallucinating, and definitely regretting every life choice that led us there. But the Sherpas, they do it without even needing extra oxygen. So scientists discovered that their bodies process oxygen differently from the rest of us. Most of us react to high altitudes by producing more red blood cells to carry oxygen. So if this oxygen, the red blood cells carry the oxygen, and then uh, that process actually makes the blood thicker and harder to pump. But the Sherpas, their genes allow them to use oxygen far more efficiently without overloading their blood. It's a built-in altitude advantage, a genetic superpower that lets them function normally in place that would leave most of us gasping for air. So, what does this all mean? It means superhumans' ability are not just fiction, they are science. It means that humans are still evolving until now, and in extreme environments, that evolution is still shaping us in ways we never imagined. The Bajau evolved to thrive in the ocean, the Sherpas evolved to dominate the mountains, and as the world keeps changing, who knows what's next? So, if evolution has already given humans the ability to survive deep underwater and thrive in the highest mountains, what's next? Could we one day evolve to withstand extreme heat, live in space, or maybe, just maybe, unlock abilities we never thought possible? If the Bajau and the Sherpas are proof that human biology is still adapting, then who's to say what the next generation of superhumans will look like? Maybe, just maybe, the future of evolution holds something even wilder than we can imagine. And who knows, maybe one day I will be able to get to fly. Thank you so much for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.